Today, we're going to jump into a story that really flips the script on what we think we know about military intelligence in the 20th century. We're going to talk about three very different cryptographic systems: the German Enigma machine, a mechanical wonder, the ancient Guarani language from Paraguay, and the incredibly complex tongue of the Navajo Nation. You see, this isn't just a story about codes. It's about how secrets are kept and how, sometimes, the strongest weapon isn't something you can build in a factory at all.
So let me start by asking you a question. What do you think was the most secure code of the last century? Now, most of us would probably say the German Enigma machine, right? And, some might bring up the Navajo Code Talkers, which is a fantastic answer. But the real story, well, it's a whole lot more fascinating, and it includes a system that's way older, completely organic, and almost totally unknown outside of South America.
Okay, so let's break this down. At its core, this is a tale of two different ways of thinking about secrecy. It's like a duel between two fortresses. On one side, you've got the fortress of the machine, built on cold, hard math and precision engineering. And on the other side, you've got the fortress of language, built on something you can't really measure: culture, human memory, and just humanity itself. Germany bet everything on the machine. The US, almost out of desperation, turned to culture. And Paraguay? They just used the language their people spoke every day.
Let's start with that first fortress, the Fortress of Gears. The Enigma machine was, there's no doubt about it, an absolute masterpiece of German engineering. The military started using it back in the 1920s, kept upgrading it, and they truly believed it was the last word in secure communications. For the German High Command, Enigma was invincible, period. And you can see why they thought that. The sheer scale of the numbers here is it's mind-bending. A standard Enigma machine with just 3 rotors had over 158 quintillion possible settings. That's a 158 with 18 zeros after it. If you tried to check every single combination by hand, it would take you longer than the known age of the universe. So, mathematically speaking, yeah, the Germans had every single reason to believe their fortress was completely unbreakable. The machine itself was just about perfect.
But that Fortress of Gears had a fatal flaw, an Achilles heel, and it wasn't the machine, it was the people using it. You see, the brilliant codebreakers over at Bletchley Park, people like Alan Turing, they didn't beat the math head-on. No way. They went after the predictable, tired, and sometimes lazy habits of the human operators. Things like routine greetings, Heil Hitler, or daily weather reports that always began with the exact same words, or even just an operator using AAA as a test key. Enigma wasn't beaten by better math. It was beaten by predictable human nature.
So now let's completely flip the script and look at the other side of this duel, the Fortress of Language. Now, this weapon wasn't designed in a lab or built in a factory. Nope, it was forged over thousands of years in communities that, let's be honest, the modern world had often tried to erase. And this is where Guarani and Navajo come into our story.
And this statement right here, it gets to the very heart of the difference. With Enigma, you had a puzzle, a system that you could eventually crack. But with the Guarani language during the Chaco War in the 1930s, Bolivian intelligence was totally stumped. Why? Because they were listening to Paraguayan soldiers just talking to each other in their native tongue. It wasn't a code layered on top of a language, the language was the code. You can't break a code that doesn't actually exist.
So you might be wondering, what made these languages so incredibly secure? Well, let's take Navajo. It's what linguists call an isolated language. It has no known relatives, so it's not like knowing Spanish helps you with French. Its grammar is ridiculously complex, and it's tonal, which means the pitch of your voice can completely change a word's meaning. Oh, and get this, a single Navajo verb can be the equivalent of a full English sentence. On top of all that, back in 1942, there were no Navajo dictionaries, no textbooks, nothing. For an enemy, learning it was, for all intents and purposes, impossible.
Now, the U.S. Marines took this natural fortress and added a really clever layer of their own. The Navajo Code Talkers didn't just speak Navajo. They built a specialized code inside their own language, so military terms got nicknames. A submarine became Beshlo, which literally means iron fish. A fighter plane was Dahi Tetahihi, or hummingbird, and for unique names or places they couldn't translate, they created a whole phonetic alphabet using Navajo words. It was this hybrid system that was both incredibly fast and totally unbreakable.
And the impact on the battlefield? It was absolutely decisive. During the horrific 36-day battle for Iwo Jima, the Code Talkers sent over 800 messages without a single mistake. They were calling in airstrikes, directing troop movements, and saving countless lives. So when Major Howard Connor says this, it's not an exaggeration. It's just a simple statement of fact. This code was a weapon that won battles.
But we have to stop here for a second. Because this story has a deep and, frankly, a very disturbing paradox at its core. You see, many of these brave Navajo men had been forced into government boarding schools when they were kids. And the official policy at these schools was, kill the Indian, save the man. They were beaten, physically punished for speaking their own language. Think about that. The very same government that tried to literally beat the Navajo language out of them was now begging them to use that language to save the country. This isn't just a side note, it's the moral, beating heart of their entire story.
So, okay, let's put these systems head to head. You've got Germany's technological marvel on one side, and on the other, two systems that are rooted in nothing more than cultural identity. How do they actually stack up when the chips are down?
Well, the history books are pretty clear on this one. It's not even close. Both the Guarani and Navajo systems, never broken. Not once, but the Enigma, that pinnacle of German engineering, it was broken again and again, and doing so is estimated to have shortened the war by at least 2 years. The result is crystal clear. The systems built on living culture were far more resilient than the one built on machinery. At the end of the day, Enigma's biggest weakness wasn't its wiring or its math, it was the flawed, predictable humans who operated it.
And that brings us to the final lesson of all this, the legacy. Because winning the war didn't mean these heroes got the recognition they deserved. Actually, it was pretty much the exact opposite.
The irony here is just, it's so bitter. The entire Navajo Code Talker program was kept secret until 1968. These men couldn't even tell their families what they did. They didn't get their congressional gold medals until 2001, almost 60 years later. And Alan Turing, the genius who broke Enigma, he was prosecuted and chemically castrated by the very same government he helped save, and he only got a royal pardon posthumously in 2013. Even Guarani, which was crucial to victory in the 30s, wasn't made an official language in Paraguay until 1992. It really seems that the powers that be often have no clue what something is worth until they desperately need it, or until it's way too late to say thank you.
So, we're left with this final question, for us, right now. In our world of AI and quantum computing, it is so easy to write off old languages or local traditions as, quaint relics of the past. But this whole story is a powerful warning. The language that was called backwards became the key to survival. The culture they tried to stamp out became the nation's most secret, most effective weapon. And it really forces us to ask ourselves, what knowledge are we letting fade away today just because we can't see an immediate use for it? What might be our own irreplaceable weapon tomorrow?